doing today?
Not too bad. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. Coming to us from Alaska.
Oh
So,
yeah.
first of all, that time difference had to have been a major challenge.
Yeah, it was a bit of an issue. It's mainly one of the reasons I wasn't online as frequently, just because like I'm still in the middle of my day, and I've still got like school to study for. I've got dad duties, and I've just got like general upkeep of like the house to take care of because we live in a dry cabin. So I've got to like leave the house to get water, bring the water back into the house. Like just taking care of general things. So.
Well, I have to say, I'm really excited to get to talk to you because I know I was saying this before we jumped on, but you're a little bit of a mystery to me, and I think to some of our fans because you weren't always around. You were a little bit more behind the scenes. But with that being said, like everybody in the game loved you. Like I've never heard a single, I think, negative thing said about you. So whatever you were doing was absolutely working, and I'm very excited to kind of get a chance to talk to you. But let's go all the way back to the beginning. So obviously, everybody here are big Survivor fans. So what was
Mhm.
like? Just explain to me your excitement about being cast in the first season of Expedition Online.
So yeah, I actually found out a day early that I had been cast because I was going on a caribou hunt, like I don't know, a few hours north of where I am now, and way out of cell range. So I had texted the casting director, and I was like, "Hey, I'm going to be out of town. Won't be able to get the word, if there is word given out. So I just want to know what's going on before I leave town." So I got word, and I was ecstatic about it. So I'm just sitting out, negative temperatures in the snow up a mountain looking for caribou, and I'm just like, I get to be part of a cool project. I'm excited about it, and I don't know. I mean, it was it was cool being selected. Like I didn't think I'd have a shot at all because I think my audition video was like less than a minute long or something like that. So I was just like, well, here's me. Hopefully they like it, and it ended up working out.
For sure. I mean, like I think you're an ideal castmate for sure because I mean, I think you have a very interesting backstory, and I mean, even the fact that like you found out while caribou hunting, like I'm kind of obsessed with all that. So going into, have you played similar games like this before, or is this like a completely new terrain to you?
Um, I mean, this is new terrain. I mean, other than like games like Deceit or Among Us, I mean, I guess that's like the closest thing I could compare it to, but it's really not even like comparable, I guess. Like after you've kind of played a game of actual deception to people's faces, like it's a bit different. So
Yeah. And so it's funny because I kind of take for granted because, again, I played a game back in August that was Survivor Online. So I take for granted that you guys, as you were signing up for this, really had no idea what you were being thrown into. So that first night, which I think was a bit of a blur for a lot of you. Obviously, we're all Survivor fans. You have heavyweights like Boston Rob, Tyson, who are handpicking the teams. So they chose you out of your audition video. What was it like that Tyson chose you?
I was actually stoked that Tyson chose me over Rob. I mean, I like both of the players. I think they're great and everything. But like, oh gosh, I can't remember which season it was, but the one where Tyson tells that girl to her face like he doesn't think she's smart enough to come up with a plan like that. Like that right there just kind of cemented him as like one of my favorite players just because like it was so blunt and honest and I don't know. Like sometimes I tend to be like that, and I tried not to be like that during the show, but I still came across as blunt and
Well, I was going to say you were voted blunt in the support there. I mean, we're jumping way ahead, but you were voted blunt. So
yeah.
it's kind of like the guy that you like about it. Um,
Mm.
so coming into that first night, you guys essentially had about 2 hours to video and get to know everybody. What was your strategy going into that first night, and who did you sort of vibe with off the bat?
Uh, so normally I'm kind of a bit of a talker, and I knew that could get me in trouble with the time difference and how much time I'd actually be able to put in. So I had to kind of keep myself down and like not talk as much and be more observant than I normally am, like when with a new group of people. So I had to like consciously keep myself from talking and watch what other people were saying and who was talking to who and like what sort of things were being said so that I could take that knowledge and help myself move further in the game.
Nice. And so was there anybody though, like in those first few days, were you sort of finding yourself aligning with certain people, or were you feeling like you were just kind of like feeling good and just feeling everybody out?
Yeah, so I was kind of feeling people out. I mean, I think Tom was kind of like one of the first people to stand out to me as like somebody to keep an eye on. But
Okay.
Docs and Qua were two people I really wanted to talk to at the beginning and try and align with them. And then they ended up coming to me, so that worked out.
Nice. So I always find this like part of the interview awkward, everyone I'm talking to, because there's no better way to say it, but like you guys essentially dominated the first portion of this game. I mean, Team Tyson won the first 4 challenges. And then even when we get into the swap, you're swapped in a good position because you're swapped with
Mm-hmm.
basically your entire alliance. And you have sort
Yeah.
of lone original Team Rob member Brandon. But before that, I think the other, big moment in the game was the discovery of the compass. So for everyone watching at home, that's our version of the idol. That day when the clue was out there, like the lean 2 became the lean clue. Did you search for it? Did you find it? Did you know anything? Like what was happening with you in that moment?
I can't remember exactly what I was doing when the first clue was dropped. I may have been offline, like cooking dinner or something like that, and then came back to just kind of check in. So I don't really remember that. But as soon as like there's any sort of immunity thrown out there, or there's a clue or talk of it, I mean, you get suspicious of like absolutely everybody. And I think it was Andrea that had started pointing me at Tom and Kimmy. And I kind of just like latched onto that info and disregarded like absolutely everybody else. Like I should have been keeping an eye on Qua because he plays poker and can keep a straight face.
Yeah.
But I just had my eyes set on Tom and Kimmy just because that's who, was name dropped to me.
Yeah. I mean, that summarizes the game. It's like, you're taking information that you're given, and whether it's right or wrong, you just have to kind of go with your gut instinct and figure out what's going to happen. So the other thing before we go into the swap though, is that I think it was, I'm trying to look, I think it was maybe the second challenge. Was that cans versus planes? Was that when you were like really good at the can challenge and you were like doing squats just for fun?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was the second challenge, I think.
Because that's also when like tearing it up was having a holiday, just like screaming out loud. But I just remember you distinctly, just like you were like giving eyes to people on screen, and you're just like doing squats. You're just like, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
Was that easy for you? Or were you actually struggling a little bit?
So near the end there, after what Trey dropped, I think is who I was matched up against first.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just gonna stick around, see what happens. Like, I mean, I could have just dropped right there and just hung out, but I didn't want to go to the crossroads because I knew my social game was pretty weak. Well, like extremely weak, probably the weakest on the whole team. So I was just like, I don't care how much this hurts. Like, I'm just gonna beat everybody.
Yeah.
So that's where I was. Like, I was just like, I just need to beat the last person from the other team.
Yeah.
Like, it hurt and it sucked, but like, I at least had enough in the tank to outlast Jake, so.
For sure. No, that was fun to watch because again, like, because you seem quieter when you're watching the show, and so the fact that I just loved every look you were giving the other team. I loved that you were like having a field day and you're just like, I'm doing squats, I'm like holding these up, like just drop.
Yeah.
So it was,
I think that was more for show than anything, just trying to make them think they had no shot.
for sure. Well, it worked because I think that they were, they could see you and you were not going anywhere. So going into the swap. Well, before we get to the swap, actually, I know I've talked to Kimmy, I've talked to Alex since they've been sort of let go, and they both mentioned how in those early days of Team Tyson, they really wanted to play, and they felt like because you all kept winning, that it actually almost like stifled their games in certain ways because they wanted to make moves. Were you of that mindset, or were you just so happy to be winning and not having to think about voting somebody out?
Yeah, I was happy to just keep winning. I mean, if you can keep people kind of calm and collected, you know, then when the chaos is supposed to come, like you can be in charge of that chaos. So, like later in the game, I think it was after merge or something like that, Qua had been idled out or compassed out.
Yeah.
And I didn't want another situation like that to happen because it was a double vote. So I just started saying stuff and just like trying to get their attention onto the wrong person
Nice.
because I didn't want one of my alliance members to go home. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you can try and control the chaos, like it'll help put you ahead, I think.
For sure. So once we get to the swap, who do you feel the most comfortable with? Like, who would you say was like this was my alliance and these were my sort of ride or die people?
Um, I didn't really feel too comfortable in the swap. The only reason I felt comfortable in the swap is because like I had the numbers and I figured everybody would kind of stick tight, especially with there only being one original team Rob. So, shoot, like, I mean, it ended up working out for me, and not so much for Brandon getting swapped over. Like, I wanted to do something with him, but he was a little too blatant and visible. But I mean, it's probably a good thing it didn't work out in the first place because I, probably would have just been called a flipper and everybody would have voted me out a lot earlier.
Yeah. No, it sounds like a few people I've talked to have all said the same thing. Like they sort of wanted to make a move at that point by bringing in Brandon, but it just wasn't working out. Like either nobody was talking enough, or the fact that Brandon was a little bit out there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Again, I just want to remind anybody who's watching this, like an extra layer of difficulty in this game is that you only have certain rooms that you can speak in. So there's the whole camp where like everybody can be there. There's a 4-person chat, like a 3-person chat, 2-person chat. So you are limited in time that you can actually speak to people and the number of rooms that are available to do it. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's more difficult than I think people can see in making big moves, especially in a very short period of time.
Oh yeah, and
So
there's really no sneaking around it either because everybody can see exactly where you're at and who you're talking to. Like you can't like go hide behind a tree and have a private conversation, or even just like whisper to somebody in the group.
exactly. So
So it was difficult.
yeah, and so especially, I mean, obviously, like I think your original party really got to know you very well, and again had a lot of really great things to say about you. As you're swapping, and like then the rendezvous happens, is your schedule worrisome to you? Because again, you would often come on like right before the challenge, and then kind of stay a little bit after the challenge. Like, was that ever something you thought of like that could be a detriment to you, or were you just sort of like it is what it is and I'm going to stick with it and just make the best of it?
Yeah, I mean, I was worried about it. Like, I would have loved to have been able to commit like so much more time to it, but like there's other responsibilities, like in real life. It'd be much different like if I was physically in a different location. I'd be talking to everybody, like figuring out what's going on all the time. But like I just had to make do with the time that I had.
No, for sure. I mean, even like talking to Brandon, he was saying that that night, I think something happened with his wife. He wasn't able to be as available. So, that's the thing. Like, we all have real lives and things take over. So, with that episode in particular, it was the book challenge, the book cup on top of it. You did fairly well. I know that your party ended up winning, but the twist was that it was a double crossroads. You got to watch the other party go first.
Mm-hmm.
Are you worried about your party members? Because obviously on the new Team Tyson is Docs, Andrea, and Qua. So how are you feeling knowing that they're sort of at a disadvantage versus in numbers?
Well, I knew Docs and Qua, like they're real smart guys. So I figured they would find some sort of way to get out of the danger if there was any danger towards them. Um, and like since I was allied with them, like I didn't want them to go at all. Like I didn't want Andrea to go either, just to like try and keep those numbers from getting closer.
Yeah.
But Dox and Qual made it out on the other side, and I wasn't entirely sure if they had made connections with original Team Rob at all. So I was kind of concerned about that.
Nice. And so that was sort of the crossroads that famously had Brandon holding up his whiteboard, trying to get the other party members to send him the compass. Um, how just what was your take on that whole crossroads? Because it was a bit, it was crazy. It was wild to watch for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I wish he had been a little more subtle about it. Because, like, if he had been and had secured it, like, I would have been voting with him to get one of the original Team Tyson people out. Like, I think at the time I had targeted Tom as the guy, like, hey, if you get the compass, like, let's get Tom out of here. Because, like, from my end, with the amount of time that I had been able to spend in the game, like, all I had seen was Tom just individually talking to people. So I was like, this guy is just building alliances with everybody and anybody except for me and Brandon. Like, so
Okay.
I was worried about that because I was like, okay, he's making a lot of connections solo, and maybe it's a good idea to get that out.
I guess you guys had nicknamed the one room the Lean Tom, is what he was
The
saying.
lean Tom, yeah, that's what Taryn had told me it had been nicknamed.
So unfortunately, Andrea goes. But the other thing to note is that two compasses were burned during this one.
Mm-hmm.
Both didn't need to be played, but Jake played his, and then Qua played his as well. So was that the first time that you knew that Qua had a compass, or did you know ahead of time?
Because I think he got that before the merge or the rendezvous. Uh,
Yeah, he found that on like day two.
Yeah. So I can't exactly remember when I had been talking to him about compasses or the danger of who may have one. It could have been after the rendezvous,
Yeah.
but I think I was only keyed in one time that he may have something in his pocket. Just because rather than holding on to like his phone, like if you watch him, he'll hold on to something to kind of anchor his hands. But he wasn't holding on to it, and he started playing with his hair when I was questioning him about like compasses and advantages.
Huh. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that now. That's a really good, interesting insight for sure. Um, so after this crossroads, you guys rendezvous, which again in the Survivor world, making the merge is sort of a big deal. That means you're
Mm.
the jury. Like obviously everyone's playing to win, but there's still that kind of like moment of excitement because you made it pretty much halfway there. So going into this one, it appears that the OG Team Tyson team have the numbers,
Mm.
right? Versus Team Rob. So talk to me about because obviously in this first vote, Rachel's the one that goes. So
Yep.
where's your mindset? Are you wanting a Team Tyson member out? Or are you wanting to pick off the Team Robs? Like where were you at that moment?
I think that shoot was it that vote? I can't remember. I think I voted for Jake when Rachel went. Um, but yeah, I was kind of more concerned about just like keeping the numbers more imbalanced as far like heavier on Team Tyson side than OG Team Rob. Um, because like I wanted the peace for as long as possible with my camp, and then when things were gonna start going, like I wanted to kind of be like leading the chaos, but like from a back seat. That way I had, shields in front of me. Like I didn't really want to do anything to stand out. Like pre-merge, I know the soda can challenge, I kind of just like, I ended up winning a challenge for the team, but like it was a very early challenge. So I thought it was important, but I didn't want to become like a big name or a big target until I was able to find a couple other people that I could bring in that really didn't seem like they had a lot of gameplay,
Yeah.
and then take out like the remaining big names.
And so once you rendezvous, are you sort of back with Dox and Qua? Is that kind of like, or
Yeah, that was the hope there. Was to kind of just let them try and lead the game to where they wanted it to go. I had Qua and Docs kind of on my list of people to pick off a little bit earlier than some of the other people that went.
Okay.
But like it was good having them in the game. But I mean, I wasn't entirely sure if I could trust them because they kept promising me like, hey, after we vote out Rachel, we're gonna vote out a Team Rob. Oh, after we vote out Tom, we're gonna vote out a Team Rob. I was just like, might be about time to find somebody else to hang out with.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, so obviously Rachel goes home in this vote, and then Tom's voted out in that next vote. So
Mm.
where's your head at here? Like, are you just sort of going along with it because you can't really, rustle too many feathers, or are you upset and trying to find other alliance members? Like, what's your mindset kind of with those two votes?
So with those two votes with Rachel, I mean, I wasn't too upset about it. I definitely understood the public opinion of getting her out after what she said to Kimmy. Um, and I mean, I could have voted there, but Qua and Docs, I think, had told me to vote a different way. I was like, all right, well, I don't want to ruffle feathers, with people that are in my alliance. So I'm going to do what I'm told. That way, later down the line, they're not like looking at me like, oh, this guy's thinking of doing other stuff without us.
Okay. Um, okay, so then Tom is voted out, and now we're getting into. So at this point, the next challenge is the stacking coins on a butter knife, which again,
Mm.
so like our expedition crew come up with these like really fun challenges that all have like a little footprint of the survival world. Um, I feel like this is not necessarily when, but like Kimmy is starting to emerge as like a challenge beast. Like she is doing really, really, really well. Kimmy wins that challenge. So this vote I'm very excited about because this one I was moderating a lot that day. So I was in a lot of your conversations, and I know that you all were very open with telling Oe she's going home. Like everybody, not maybe not necessarily you, but like most of the people remaining were all like, Oe, it's you, Oe, it's you. And I remember hearing Qua say, I think Jess has a compass, and I think that
Mm.
she's gonna play it for Oe. And it felt like nobody was really listening to him. Did Quag say that to you at all? Like, did you guys go in here thinking maybe we should split the votes in case there was a compass, or were you all so set in knowing that Oe was gonna leave, or were you okay if Quag got voted out? And I was like, a heavy.
Um, yeah, so I don't necessarily recall if I had talked to Qua about there being a compass floating around. Um, but yeah, I don't remember talking to him about it. But I think I just kind of had like blinders on and was like, okay, here's a big challenge beast. She needs to go. And in the end, it was Qua because
Yeah.
of the compass play by Jess.
Well, but
So, I mean, it was a bummer losing him because he was trying to be in the driver's seat and that brought a lot of attention to him, which I thought was good for me. So it was kind of a bummer losing him earlier than I wanted him to go, but it is what it is.
yeah, I mean, we only have one winner. Everyone has to go at some point.
Yeah.
So there is a surprise in that it's a double crossroads. So you immediately go into a new challenge. Oe wins that challenge. Is it pretty easy that you guys are all going to vote Sam?
Yeah, that had been the talk. I'm not really sure why Sam, though. I didn't see him as like a big threat, but like I know he was really closely allied with Oe.
That's
So
right. Because this was the vote where I think Docs had come up with a number system. Everybody had a number. And correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like when Oe won, I remember Docs throwing up a 4 to vote for Sam. And I feel like you put up a 2.
yeah, so I was putting up a 2 because like I thought it'd be a good idea to get Jess out, and
And
then Docs was like,
tell me why.
no, let's go 4. And I was like, well, this person just has a big resume all of a sudden. Like, it'd be a good idea to get them. And I was like, sitting there thinking about like Qua leaving and like how Jess had just gotten him out. But I knew there wouldn't be really a chance for everyone to kind of like on the same page because we had discussed getting Sam out earlier, I think. And I didn't want to like mess too much stuff up. So I just kept saying Jess's name in case there was like another compass or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I just, wanted them to be on the back foot after having put us on the back foot.
Yeah. Well, no, and then when you see where this game has now gone, and you have Jess sitting in the end, like, I mean, you're clearly onto something, and but that's what's crazy about this game too, is that you guys didn't have any time. You weren't allowed to go back to camp and have any kind of private conversations. It was like 10 minutes open discussion to vote somebody. So it ends up being Sam, obviously. So going into the next challenge is story time. Kimmy again wins another challenge. There's a little bit of craziness in this one because you find out that it's a flip vote, meaning whoever has the lowest number of votes actually goes home. Did that affect anything, or was it pretty obvious that Owie was leaving?
It didn't affect anything. I think it just took a minute to like grasp the rules of it and then implement the vote. And for whatever reason, everyone seemed terrified of having the most votes on them in this situation. So I was just like, just put the votes on me. Yeah. Like, it means I'm safe. Like, okay. But yeah, I mean, it just took a minute. And of course, Docs and his big brain figured it out like pretty quick and just, went with it.
So I'm just curious. I mean, at that point, when Owie is being voted out, like, where would you say you were aligned? Like, who?
So at that point, I was still wanting to work a lot with Docs because he was a smart player. I thought he had a fairly large target on his back just because of how smart he is, and how well he's able to change people's minds, or at least explain his rationale for certain choices or plays he's trying to make. So I wanted to work with him, but I needed people with a weaker story than mine. So I started trying to build a stronger relationship with Jake, because from the outs, I didn't really see a whole lot of game from him, other than him just like kind of flipping and just being a vote for whoever had the higher numbers. And then Taryn, she seemed like a very like loyal person, and there was like a slightly naive to like the way that the game like works out, and I thought like she had a lot of trustworthiness and like something I could work with and at least bring along, because I mean, her and I, we came from a winning team. We didn't have to struggle too much, so I knew like if I worked with her, I could at least boost myself a little bit up above her by being able to make a single decision. Because if you get everybody else out that's been making big moves and big decisions, all that matters is that you made a big decision of your own. And it doesn't matter how many you've made if you're the only person that's made one.
Okay. And so with that, did the three of you ever sort of talk together and kind of make something official? Or were you sort of grabbing them? Like, how did that?
Oh, yeah. So we'd kind of dubbed ourselves like the GOAT team or whatever, just like, hey, we're just getting dragged along. And I wanted to try and like emphasize over and over again, like how I had a lack of social game, like, oh, we can't beat this person. We can't beat this person. We can't beat this person. It was always wanting to be like, hey, that person's going to beat us. We can't beat them. They need to go. And it was kind of working out. I'm not sure, like from their side, like how they felt about it, like if they had their own thoughts or anything like that. But that was my hope, was to just try and like be like, look at them over there, they're going to beat us. Look at that person over there, they're going to beat us. And trying to just bring these two in with me. Yeah, that was my hope. I don't know how well it worked or how well it translated onto the screen, but like that was my hope.
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, well, obviously I haven't talked to Taryn because Taryn's still in the game, and I've not talked to Jake. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow, so I don't know. I will say from a moderator point of view, this next vote where you guys do get Kimmy out, and we'll get there, but like, I mean, because I think you probably left to like be with your family, like they were on cloud nine. I mean, they were just like, we did a big move. Like, I mean, so to me, it felt very much like the three of you did a power move. And felt really in control of the game at that moment. So I think that it was very, from my perception, it felt very legit. Um, so obviously we go into superlatives, which is meant to like stir the pot a little bit, obviously. We
Mhm.
don't know if that helped you guys in creating your sort of like GOAT alliance, but you are named blunt, laid back, and clueless.
Mhm.
How do you feel about these three terms?
I mean, the blunt I can understand. I mean, like my in-laws didn't think I had like emotions for the longest time, just because I'm always just like, okay, that sounds good, you know. Um,
That's the laid back attitude, though.
yeah. But I don't know. I mean, it could have also been like part of just being in the military for so long. Like, if you kind of pussyfoot around, like you're never gonna get anything done. So you just gotta be like, bam, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
So it could have been partly that like developed into a character trait, I guess. So I didn't really mind like the blunt or the laid back. I mean, that's fine. But the clueless, I was kind of like, well, I mean, I guess I haven't really been talking as much to these people, so like they don't realize I'm paying so much attention. Um, but I mean, if they think I'm clueless, that's fine because like they
Yeah.
don't know what I know.
I mean, so because again, I'm really loving the whole like GOAT alliance. Did that form after these superlatives, or was that sort of in the works leading up to that day?
I think it was kind of in the works. I kind of already had Taryn brought in. I think I even had to define what goat was to her at one point. I can't remember specifically, but I think her and I were in a room privately, and I was like, "Hey, we're goats," and she's like, "What's a goat?" So I think I defined that for her. And then Jake, he seemed like he was just being attacked over and over and over again for just trying to make it another day. So I was like, "Hey, I'll be your buddy. Like, let's work together." And I
Yeah.
was trying to keep it like low key because I didn't want people to start to realize like that the voting block that they had been directing was starting to get a mind of its own. So my hope was just to try and be as low key as possible the whole time.
But here's the thing: is like, I mean, that was a huge move. So you guys really pulled off something stellar, honestly. And so, and what, as fans of the show got to watch, was that Alex actually gave Jess her safety without power, had sort of instructed Jess to use it because she was convinced that everybody was voting Jess tonight. But obviously, like, you guys were leading the charge. So, in terms of the vote for Kimmy, are you taking ownership for that? Was that like a group decision? Like, who decided when that was happening and how it was?
Uh, so when I came back pre-vote, um, I think Jake was trying to dictate to me that we were going to be voting Docs out, and I wasn't ready for Docs to go. Like I wanted to work with him a little bit more, and I was like, I think we should get Kimmy out. We won't have many more chances to do this, so we should get Kimmy out. And he wasn't entirely sure, but he went to go talk to someone else about it. And then Taryn jumped into the room with me, and I was like, we need to vote Kimmy. And she's like, I agree. So I think Taryn and I kind of led that. But if I hadn't, told Jake, like, Kimmy needs to be the one to go, I don't know if it would have worked out.
Nice.
So I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know if it was the right call just because, like, Docs ended up kind of big braining everything and forcing the rock draw and all that. So it could have been smart to keep Kimmy, but
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is like Kimmy was a beast, and
oh
I
yeah,
think that
it was insane.
you guys really made a power move, and with a move that definitely rocked the game. I mean, I remember like Alex freaking out after that vote. Docs was sort of freaking out after that vote because I think it was the first time in their games that they did not feel in the know.
Yeah.
You guys really did do something that was a blindside for sure. So going into this next one, which is the sad day. This is the day that you get voted out. It's the flip cup pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
So as a spectator, and this is just as a spectator, it looks like it was likely going to be Alex or Doc's going home because they were kind of on the bottom. Did you all feel still like really in power coming off of the Kimmy vote? Because it looked like you guys did. But were you feeling like, oh, this is our game now, and we're gonna get to the final 3 or 4? Like, what were you thinking?
Yeah. So after that, I think we kind of got a little too complacent and a little too comfortable, and I think that's what ended up becoming like our downfall. Like if Jake had won that immunity, I think the game would have ended up a lot different because he was on his last cup.
Yeah.
So, had he won, we probably could have gotten what we wanted in the end. But I think for that vote, if Alex hadn't won immunity, I think I was going to vote for Alex on that vote.
Yeah.
But obviously it didn't happen.
So at this point, though, you guys, everybody knows that Jess has a safety without power. Alex blew that up. She said, I gave this to her. It felt like listening that everybody said, we're all assuming that Jess is going to leave. And so Jess leaves. We're going to have to put a vote on somebody. Jess has other ideas because she has a company nobody knows about. And so when she doesn't leave, are you like, what are you thinking? Are you like, this is too good to be true? Like, we're all voting her out? Are you thinking there's something up her sleeve? Like, what are you thinking?
So I was thinking that she understood that that was the only way they were going to bust 3 of us goats up. Just because Docs laid it out like pretty plain and simple, like, hey, we're 4, 5, 6, and they're going to be in the final 3. So I figured since she'd already made some risky moves before and they worked out for her, she was just like, I need to work with these 2 other people here and take out this alliance because they're the last strong alliance. So I was just like, all right, it's going to come down to rocks, and there's still a chance that we can get out of this. But when she pulled the compass, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool.
But you were like willing to go to rocks.
Oh yeah, like
but if you didn't, you were like ready to go to rocks, right?
Yep. Yeah, I was hopefully, well, I was hoping anyway that somebody on the other side would end up flipping or something, like like not wanting to risk themselves. But I was like, I've got nothing to lose. This adds something to my resume. Like, let's do it. And so I wanted to be gun ho about it, and hopefully be able to use it to my advantage. But it ended up not working out.
Yeah. So okay, so you all cast your votes, and then Andy does the like, if anybody has an advantage, just plays it. Are you thinking it's your time, or are you thinking votes are going to go somewhere else?
Well, I mean, I kind of had a suspicion that it would be me just because I, told Docs and Alex the same lie after the Kimmy vote, like it wasn't me, and ended up getting that information out about the safety without power. So I figured they would be a little hurt by the lie and vote for me, but I was thinking that night that it was going to be Jake.
So sadly, you get voted out. But I mean, you honestly, you played a really great game. You're in the jury. Um, everyone watching, it's Sunday. Tomorrow, we're crowning a winner. Someone's going to win $1,000. So I've asked this of everybody. Of the 3 remaining players, who do you A think is playing? Who are you rooting for? And B, who do you think is actually going to win? And it could be the same person or it could be different people.
I mean, I'm rooting for Docs just because he's super super smart. He's a good guy, and he has like an understanding of the game and rules that is so in depth. Like I would compare him. Oh shoot, I don't even know who I'd compare him to, but like I guess like Ewell or something. Like he's very very strategic, and he's very cautious about like what he's letting on, or he only lets you see what he wants you to really see.
Yeah.
Jess right now is probably who I will end up voting for, just because of like everything that she was able to do with the compasses, and like, I mean, she even had someone in her alliance like sacrifice themselves to further her in the game. I thought that was pretty cool that they like understood she would be able to make it to the end and sacrifice themselves. I think it was Oe that did that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, right now I'm kind of leaning more Jess just because like she started at the bottom and she just kept climbing and climbing, and you know I think it's a good story.
So since the finale is tomorrow, as a jury member, what are you looking for from the three? Like, are you, like some people say, like, I want you to own certain moves. I want you to like be blunt, or what are you hoping to get from the three of them to maybe either change your decision or to, be like, I'm definitely 1000% now voting for Joss.
Um, I don't know. I'll probably listen to what other people are asking. I mean, I feel like my question will be kind of like lower tier, but I just want to know what their favorite vote out was. Like who's their favorite person that they voted out.
I like
I
that
just want
question. I actually think it's
to, yeah,
a cool.
because I mean, everybody else is going to be asking questions like, what was your big move? Like, what is your story? And I just want to know what like their most fun was at Crossroads. Like, who was their favorite vote out?
Yeah. I actually really like that question. I don't know if I've ever heard that one before in like past seasons, so that's awesome. I mean, also too, because it like kind of out a little bit because you're like, if there's a good chance someone's on the jury that you're gonna say, I really enjoyed voting out Alex, or I really enjoyed voting you out, or something like that. So,
Yeah.
so Jordan, would you play this again?
Oh yeah, I'd play again. I mean, potentially it's not approaching finals week, or I've got a little bit more free time, but I think I'd play again.
No, you were a blast to watch. It was really cool to get to know you. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to say, or anything you haven't shared with us?
Um, I mean, nothing off the top of my head that I can really think of. I mean, my gameplay, I just wanted to try and be as low key as I could with the amount of time that I was able to be online, so that people wouldn't really suspect me. And I think that was kind of working out. I think Brent commented about how like I'd be like, okay, I'm going to dinner, and nobody would say my name again. So it was working out to some degree. And I'm kind of bummed I didn't get more footing. Like I would have enjoyed being able to move a little bit more and take out a couple more people, but I think the one blind side was at least good enough.
It was, and the fact that you ended up going out on a compass play, so it's a memorable crossroads for sure. But I was being very serious when I said earlier that I've heard nothing but positive, great things about you. I think everybody really respected that you were a family man. I think everybody were just like they understood. Everyone just be like, oh yeah, of course you gotta go to dinner. Like, yeah, talk to you
Yeah.
later. Talk to you tomorrow. Like, I mean, it was never. So I think that style actually worked. And in a season where people literally got on at 5 and left at midnight, I think you were like a bit of a breath of fresh air. That people were just sort of like, good, there's somebody who actually isn't just like hanging here. So I think that
Mm-hmm.
actually worked for you. And again, dude, I mean, like sixth place is you outlasted 2/3 of the whole group. I mean, that's a really good thing, and it's nothing to sort of scoff at. So you should be very proud of yourself. I think that you did well, and I really hope we get to see you more in the future.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun to play again. And I'm bummed about 6, but I think the way I went out was pretty dramatic, and I enjoyed it. I mean, as a fan of the game, like I think it was an interesting way to go. Like it'd be entertaining to watch it back and see it happen.
Are you gonna watch everything back when this is all done?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I've just got to go through and like put together a list of where like everything is, because it was bouncing between 2 channels, and I'll probably have to send that to my mom or my dad so
Yeah.
they can watch too. So
Um, Jordan, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
yeah,
We got, appreciated having a chance to get to know you and hear a little bit more about your game. Everybody watching at home, the finals tomorrow, Monday.
yeah,
Crown a winner. This season is almost over. It has been a blast. Thank you for playing hard and making some big moves and making it interesting for us to watch. And for everyone at home, look forward to seeing you in the next episode. I wonder who it will be.